Hi, I just would like to say thank you for having me today. I have to do this disclaimer because I work for a federal government. The commission only speaks through its orders, so anything that I say today is my opinion and my opinion alone. It may not reflect the views of the commissioners or the commission. But I'm trying not to lead you astray, but just in case. Okay. So our agenda for today is I'm going to give you background on a policy statement that we issued regarding pipelines imposing a surcharge or a tracker for modernizing their facilities. I will tell you what is in that policy statement and how it's been used to date. So just very quickly, the commission is regulated by the Natural Gas Act. And the Natural Gas Act does not require the commission to follow any specific type of rate-making formula, but it must make sure that any rates that interstate pipelines charge are just and reasonable. And so in that context, historically, the commission has said pipelines must design their rates to recover projected units of service. And so up until the time about 2012, the commission declined to allow pipelines to impose a surcharge or tracker for safety matters, because the commission said, if you want to pay for safety, then you should do that via General Section 4, where pipelines rates are changed. But then in 2012, as recently, the commission rejected a protested proposal for a safety cost through a tracker. But the commission noted in that proceeding that the Pipeline Safety Act had been issued in 2011. And so the commission said, we will think about whether we need to change this or make tweaks in the future. And so that tweak came in 2013. The commission, I'm sorry, I'm just going on and I didn't go forward. That came via, as background, the commission said, okay, well, the Pipeline Safety Act was issued in 2011. PHMSA may impose integrity verification things. It may change qualifications for cast iron pipes and whether they need to be replaced. They may impose something for shut-off valves. These are all things we need to think about. The commission also noted that greenhouse gas emissions have become a big issue, and so the EPA has a greenhouse gas reporting that they must do via Subpart W. And so against this background, the commission started thinking about it. And then it was placed right directly in its lap via Columbia Pipeline. So Columbia Pipeline is a rather unique pipeline. More than 50 or 60% of its pipeline were cast iron pipe, and so it needed to be replaced. It had come in a number of times to the commission trying to figure out a way to do so, and they never or were able to do that, but then they came in with a settlement that they had worked out with its customers. That settlement was protested, but that settlement came up with something called a cost recovery mechanism to modernize its facilities. In that, I can't tell which one, not yet, sorry. Okay, well, I'll just, so in Columbia, the commission looked at this contested settlement, and the commission approved it. The commission approved it because it had unique framework that the commission liked. For one, Columbia immediately reduced its base rates, and so there was a refund back to the customers. Number two, Columbia came up with a very specific list of items of facilities that it was going to replace, and the tracker was for a limited period of time. It was for 5 years. Annually, Columbia agreed to just do $100 million of regular O&M costs that would not go into the tracker. The commission liked that there was going to be a periodic review annually of the amounts that Columbia was going to pay, was going to input for the improvements, and most importantly, the majority of Columbia shippers supported the settlement. The Maryland Public Service Commission opposed the settlement, and the commission said, despite the Maryland Public Service Commission opposing the settlement, we think overall that this was a good settlement, and so the commission decided to approve it. And so therefore, the commission, after that time and in light of the safety issues, decided to issue this policy statement because the commission anticipated that there would be new charges that pipelines will have to incur for modernizing its facilities. And so the commission issued a proposed policy statement. A policy statement is not a rule, it's not a regulation, so it is just basically a framework that the commission will follow. So initially, it issued the proposed policy statement. That proposed policy statement was issued, and the commission received comments back. The commission's framework for that proposed policy was greatly influenced by Columbia's, I just don't know where I'm on the slide, I can't tell. Wait. And so, I apologize, I can't see the screen, so I'm not sure. So the commission said the purpose of the policy statement was to provide greater certainty regarding the ability of interstate natural gas pipelines to cover costs of modernizing their facilities and infrastructure to enhance the efficient and safe operations of their system. And so the commission issued the proposed policy statement, and then it issued the final policy statement in April of 2015, and that policy statement became effective in October of 2015. And so the three criteria that the commission adopted, or I'm sorry, the 5 criteria that the commission adopted, was initially the pipeline must show that its existing rates are just and reasonable. How can the pipeline do that? The commission laid out 3 possible ways, but also provided great flexibility. The pipeline can file a general Section 4 rate case where all of its rates, expenses, costs, and revenues are open for review with the shippers. The commission also said the pipeline could come in and file what is a cost and revenue study. And that is the pipeline comes in and says, here's how much our costs are, here's how much our revenues are, and we think our rates are just and reasonable. And last, the commission said the pipeline can work with its shippers and come up with whatever mechanism they decide to say, my rates are just and reasonable. So that's a prerequisite. Before the pipeline could ever come in and say, we want to add a surcharge on top of our existing base rates, the pipeline must prove that its existing rates are just and reasonable. The second prong, the commission said, was the pipeline must specifically detail the eligible costs, the programs, the pipe that it wants to replace. And so in Columbia had a very, very detailed list. We are replacing this section of pipe from here to here on these dates, et cetera, et cetera. And so the commission said, for the proposed policy statement, if you want this surcharge, you have to come up with a similar list. What that list looks like, the commission said, we will give you flexibility on. But the commission did put some parameters. They said it has to be a one-time capital cost that is incurred to modify existing system infrastructure to comply with new, more stringent regulations or to employ new technologies that increase the safety or efficiency. And so initially the commission said one-time capital cost. On rehearing and as it massaged it, it said, well, maybe not solely one-time capital cost. You can, let me go to the next slide. The commission declined to limit the eligible cost and said it doesn't just have to be, PHMSA has issued a new regulation, we want this surcharge to comply with that. it doesn't have to be a law that has been enacted. It can be, we are replacing our compressors as best practices because of X. But the key is the pipelines have to work with their shippers to come up with whatever those eligible costs are. Moreover, those eligible costs have to be reviewed periodically. In Columbia's case, each year they review it, and it takes 2/3 of their customers to change the order of them. So when we spoke to them, they said, initially we thought it was going to be X, Y, and Z. After we did X and Y, Z was eliminated, so we didn't have to do Z anymore. And so they went back to their customers and said, we had X, Y, and Z in this order, but because we did X and Y, we no longer need to do Z, so we're going to do AA and BB. And before they can make that change, 2/3 of their shippers that were a part of that settlement had to agree. So there just has to be a specific identification of the capital investment, and there also has to be an upper limit. The pipeline can't say we're going to replace our compressors, period. It has to say we are replacing or reciprocating compressors, and we're not going to spend more than $400 million or whatever. In Columbia's case, Columbia agreed to do $100 million of ordinary maintenance, which was not a part of the surcharge, and then to annually do $300 million of the modernization cost surcharge. And another thing the commission said to make sure that pipeline shippers are protected is that the pipeline can't impose this surcharge and then lose, some portion of its throughput or load, or decide that it had to give so many discounts that it's going to change the billing determinants on which the surcharge was made. So if they had 100,000 decatherms that they based the surcharge on, then it has to remain 100,000 decatherms, even if they had to discount and they only were getting paid for 80,000, essentially the equivalent, because they had to discount. And so there can't be cost shifts, the commission said. The commission also said there has to be a periodic review of the surcharge. In Columbia's case, they have a 5-year CCRM, and they have an annual review. On rehearing and in comments, shippers said, commission, require that pipelines have to review, the periodic review has to be in this time frame or this time frame. The commission declined to put the parameters of what that time frame would look like, but they said there just has to be shipper support. What does shipper support look like? In comment, shippers said it has to be 100% support, or come up with a number, commission. And the commission declined to, first the commission expressly rejected that it had to be 100% support of shippers. But the commission also rejected coming up with whatever that percentage is. It didn't have to be 70%, it didn't have to be 80%. The commission said, we expect this policy statement to be flexible, and so you pipelines work with your shippers collaboratively to come up with that. So those are the 5 benchmarks that have to be met for pipeline to come in and say they want a surcharge for modernization cost. So since that time, has anyone come in? Well, Tallgrass recently came in conjunction with a general section 4, and in their tariff, proposed tariff, they have a section that says, hey, we're going to have this surcharge, and we think that we've met all the criteria. Well, protest came in and said they haven't talked to us, they don't have the annual cost of what it should be, and so we don't think that's appropriate. The commission has not ruled on the section 4 yet, so that's just something to stay tuned to. In a Florida gas case, which there was a general 4 section rate case, in the settlement to that rate case, which was approved in the last month, in the settlement it expressly said, this rate case does not qualify for your first prong of ensuring rates are just and reasonable. So in the settlement, that sends a signal that Florida Gas will have to come in a different way if it decides to impose a surcharge, and that they can't say our settlement that we reached in the rate case we held in 2015 is our first prong. And then last but not least, Transwestern also has a settlement where they say this case does not qualify for the surcharge. So pipelines and shippers are considering the surcharge, and in settlement talks and otherwise, they are, trying to figure out the framework that they will use on the pipelines that they're on. So it's interesting, the commission provided great flexibility because it is just a policy statement. And if there is a collaboration, the commission likes settlements. So if there's a settlement and it's uncontested, the commission really likes that. So thank you.